The Ultimates return after that smackdown that the Hulk put on them last month, and all new Venom debuts. Absolute Superman continues to rock. Batman 155 leads us into the Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee era, and Two-Face returns with a new number one. That and more will be this week's comics. We're going to talk to you guys about all the books we're excited for. We're going to spotlight I'm going to spotlight a book this week, and we're going to make some predictions on what our pick of the week will be on Pals Pools. So let's kick things off by previewing to you guys what will be on Pals Pools this Thursday. Leading the charge is Ultimates number 7. This is written by Dennis Camp with art by Juan Frigeri, colors by Federico Blee. So, as I teased last month, we had the Hulk really put his boot up the collective butt of the Ultimates, and now they have to lick their wounds and figure out what to do next, especially considering that they encountered a really bad loss in the last issue. I'm really excited for this one. This is my favorite comic book being published right now, and it feels like it just gets better and better.
Yeah, especially after the events of last issue, I think the Ultimates do really well as they are an underdog team and they're revolutionaries. So having them have to be on the back foot again and regroup and actually maybe learn to work as a team is going to be interesting. And I'm excited to see now that our team's fully fleshed out too. I kind of hope this is a slower issue just so we can get some more character work between these characters.
Yeah, and Sean describing it as a got their ass beat. They got rocked, and so I definitely want to see how they're picking up the pieces, not just from a literally picking up the pieces of their team, but from a mental standpoint. Where do these guys stand now? How did this affect them? Where's their confidence at? They were ready to lay in on this villain, and they got the whooping back.
It's also worth pointing out that this is the start of a new arc. So, for those of you who might be wanting to see what all the fuss is about and jump on board, issue 7 of Ultimates would be the place to do that. Now, all new Venom number 1 is also going to be on our docket. This is written by Al Ewing, who will actually be joining us on the show proper on Saturday, with art by Carlos Gomez and colors by Frank DeMarta. So, we've had a Venom event going on, the Venom War, for the last few months. And one of the questions coming out of that event was who was going to be the new Venom. And so this is the issue that is going to tell us who the new Venom is, who is wearing the Venom suit. And I'm pretty excited to find that out and start fresh with what Al Ewing has to say with this new iteration of Venom.
Some of the proposed characters that have been named as potentials for this Venom are interesting. I think one of them's Luke Cage, one of them's Robbie, oh, Peter's friend,
Robbie Robertson.
Robbie Robertson. I think was name dropped as a possibility.
Oh.
And honestly, I expect this issue to not tell us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I'm always down for number one. And Venom, I remember when we were first reviewing some of the initial issues of the Rom V run, where they would hand it off with Ewing, were good, and it made me go back to read maybe a trade or two before, just some of the individual stuff that was happening. It was interesting the way that they had positioned Venom, and so this is cool to see how that furthers. It's all new, so we'll see how all new, based on my knowledge.
Sure. Absolute Superman number 2. Speaking of new, we are in the early days of this series. We don't know a ton yet because Jason Aaron and Rafa Sandoval and Ulysses Arola are still cooking. And we have to see what they have in store for us. But the first issue was a lot of fun. It showed us a little bit of the origin of this new Superman, but also the origin of Krypton in the Absolute Universe, which made things really interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how they further that storyline and whether they continue to strike a balance between flashback and current era stuff. We saw Absolute Wonder Woman continue with the flashbacks. Batman did too, so that might just be the way of the Absolute Universe.
Yeah.
I think this was my pick of the week, the first one. it's similar to Ultimates, where this is kind of its own um, revolutionary tale, where Superman exists as this revolutionary, is interesting to me, and I think Jason Aaron is cooking something there that I am excited to taste more of.
Yeah, same. I think the first issue did the groundwork, the necessary groundwork, I think, in order to uh, make it engaging. I think the only critique I lobbed at it was that it didn't feel like it all the way altered things. But I'm excited to see how we get forward momentum into the rest of what this arc is going to be. I don't think we got too much of who this absolute Superman is. We got the why he's angry and upset, but I don't yet know what's motivating him, what's driving him, and I think that was part of the conversation. So I really want to dig into that. And Tyler, you're correct. It was your pick of the week.
Thanks for the stats there.
We are just a few issues away from the creative team switch on Batman from the current team of Chip Zdarsky, Jorge Fornes in this issue, Tamu Murray and Clayton Cowles over to Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. But Chip Zdarsky still has a few more things to say with this character. He's been in the midst of a burgeoning Court of Owls storyline with a possible brother of Bruce being revealed again, and still dealing with the Riddler of it all. So Chip Zdarsky's trying to end his run and say all the things he has to say before he gets the boot. But even though I've been down on this series, I still do want to see how Chip decides to resolve things.
I mean, you say creative team, and there really hasn't been a consistent team on this book in a while. But you also say Jorge Fornes, and I'm in. Especially on a Batman book, like there's not much that could get me to read Batman more than see him draw some more Batman stuff.
That's gonna be cool. That's gonna be that honestly is the big draw for me, the Fournier's art, because at the moment I'm a little checked out of the story, and I want to kind of get moving. So I want to see him close out strong, and I definitely want to see what Fournier's brings to the table. The last thing I saw him on was the Tom King book Rorschach, and stellar work. I can only imagine that drawing this kind of Batman is also going to be stellar.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Batman, one of Batman's greatest rogues is stepping out on his own. Two-Face is getting a solo series from Christian Ward with art by Fabio Veras and colors by Ivan Placencia, letters from Hassan Atzman Al-How.
Nice.
The solicit reads, Harvey Dent's greatest trial begins. After years of internal conflict, both halves of Harvey Dent have reached an uneasy peace. In DC's new Two-Face series, Harvey uses his skills as an attorney to resolve the conflicts of Gotham's weirdest and most dangerous criminals, starting with Victor Zsasz. When Zsasz is accused of murdering a fellow member of Gotham's underworld contingent, who better to prove a criminal's innocence than someone who's been on both sides of the law?
So this sounds like an underground court, not an actual legal court, but
Court
it's
of
more.
law.
It's like a court of outlaw, really, um, is what it sounds like, and that's kind of goofy. I kind of like that idea. I know. What I'm more excited about this book is to see how Sean thinks about this book because I know you're the Two Face guy out of all of us.
Yeah, Two-Face is my favorite Batman villain, one of my favorite villains in comics, and I don't love the idea of the spotlight being on him in his own solo series, but certainly Christian Ward has done a lot of great work, and so I'm gonna choose to trust his pen, and I agree with you, Tyler, that I do like the flip that it's not real court, it's almost like a kangaroo sort of, fake underground court, and that I can get behind because he's still involved in the criminal world.
The concept's just too wacky for me. I view Two Face as a maddened, almost straight edge criminal, and I'm gonna wait to see how that plays with the outlaw piece, the criminality, the legalese of it all as well. I think some of the things that helped books like She-Hulk, for example, were that. But I wonder how that's going to play with the DC darker world. This directly being not a court of law, so I wonder what even applies or doesn't. Like, how does one judge? There's a lot of questions for me on this book, I think, and that's probably my biggest issue going into it. But I'm here to be pleasantly surprised.
Well, you never know. It could end up being your pick of the week. This is the part where we're going to predict what our pick of the week is going to be. And for me, it's really easy. Ultimates is my pick of the week every single week. It's been that way for 7 months straight. So I'm going to choose Ultimates number 7. It hasn't let me down yet. It's a great comic, my favorite book.
Yeah, uh, I think the same thing. It's every time that it comes out, or almost every time for me, it's been the pick of the week, or at the very least, in its outstanding issue that was probably my second choice. So I'm pretty confident in that.
I mean, I'm kind of with you guys. I think Ultimates is statistically, I'm sure if we could see the stats for every time Ultimate's been around, how often it's been pick of the week. But I did like Absolute Superman a lot. I think there is a chance, especially if we're at a slower issue that maybe doesn't do much for me in Ultimates, that Superman could come out. But I'm still going to go with Ultimates.
The only time it didn't, here's a statistician Marco, was for all of us when Absolute Batman #1 came out.
Ah, okay.
Fair.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That was
All right.
Ultimates #5.
So maybe another absolute book will be the one to knock it off its perch
We'll see.
this week. You never know. But we do want to now tell you guys what our honorable mentions are this week. These are books that, unfortunately aren't going to make the main show, or they could be in the poll. We can talk about books that are in the poll, so maybe sell you on those. But largely, these are the books that we are excited about that don't necessarily make the show. Marco, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, and speaking of the poll, mine's on it, and to be honest, currently winning. So this is more of a PSA for JSA that you can vote on the poll every week to pick your book. Right now, 279 votes, 54%. So winning overwhelmingly. The first issue knocked it out of the park. Drama, angst, a little bit of action. I think it has all the makings of a great book. And so I expect to see JSA carry this momentum that we had from Jeff Lemire, also from Diego Olortegui, to be able to push us forward, see where else we can go. What is going to break? What breaks first even?
He does a little bit of action in an issue where one guy blows another guy's head off, and then Doctor Strange is fighting at the the tower
Yeah.
of just a little bit.
With Wildcat in the background.
How about you, Tyler?
I'm gonna pick the book that I most see myself in some ways. And that's Snot Girl. As anyone who watches the show knows, I have horrible allergies constantly, and you can probably hear it right now because they're flaring up right now. But Snot Girl number 16 is out this week. This is by Brian Lee O'Malley of Scott Pilgrim fame, and then all of the art done by Leslie Hung. It tells this tale of Lottie, who's kind of this influencer. She has horrible allergies. That's why the book's called Snot Girl. And her relationships between her friends and now her dream girl, who at the end of issue 15 she finally got with. So this book returns after 4 years? It's been
Something
a
like
while
that.
since issue 15.
Craziness.
I will need to recatch myself up because I am lost. The solicits even joke about that. If you read the solicits for the issues coming up, it's like, do you remember this, right? No, nobody does. Catch up again. But I'm really excited to see this book back. I think this book does fashion better than any book out there. It's a gorgeous book, and it's actually really funny. So I'm excited to see Snot Girl back.
Awesome. For me, it's gonna be X Force number 6. So X Force is by Jeffrey Thorne. This issue is gonna feature art from Jim Toe, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by Joe Caramagna. So X Force, I feel like, is not getting a ton of love from fans right now, and I think that's a shame because I do believe this book is really good. It's not focusing on the more marquee characters, although this issue in particular will feature Storm. So there you go. But what it does have is it's got a rotating cast that utilizes interesting characters, some of whom are super popular, like Deadpool, but some who aren't, like Surge, who's one of my favorite X-Men characters that doesn't get a lot of attention. And it puts them in situations that each issue begin and end. So you do get a full story unto itself with a larger story unfolding about the way that Forge feels the world needs to be fixed, because if he doesn't, it's all going to fall apart. And he has put together a team of the X-Force to get the job done. I've been having a lot of fun with this series. I think it's really good. Jeffrey Thorne is a smart writer who understands how to tell stories with a character like Forge who's smarter than all of us. And that's not easy to do. So I think everybody should be reading this. It's a solid run, and it's worth your time.
What the hell is Surge going to do there when Storm's around?
Well, it's a rotating cast, so
Okay.
she might not even be in it.
Okay.
Where has this book stood with your X line books at the moment?
It's at the near top. It's Uncanny X-Men for me, and then probably Exceptional, and then this would be my ranking.
Just
I
that
think.
exceptional. That was a good issue.
Yeah. So it's in the conversation for me.
Sure.
Now, you can't vote for Snot Girl or X Force. They didn't make the poll, but you certainly can vote for JSA, as Marco mentioned, alongside a few other books like Birds of Prey number 16, Batgirl number 2, and Juvenile number 1. Vote your heart. Let us know what you want to read, what you want us to read, and it will be on the docket, just like all the other books that we talked about and teased earlier. Now, there is one last thing left to do, and that is to put the spotlight on one of us to talk about a book that we are loving right now that doesn't necessarily pertain to what's happening in weekly comics. My pick is a book that is still coming out, but it's not out this week or anything like that. But it's a book that I think really deserves people's attention and praise. And that's Kaya. Kaya by Wes Craig. To me, Kaya is one of the best comic books coming out every month, no matter what publisher we're talking about. This does happen to be an Image comic, and I think it is a titan of Image. It's not a super serious or dark book. It does focus on a young girl named Kaya who is essentially escorting her brother or her half brother on a mission because he is believed to be the chosen one. He is believed to be one of the most powerful magic users in the world, and that his magical powers will free the world, essentially. And she has all Kaya has is a metal arm, and it's pretty sick. So the art style, if you've ever read Deadly Class, you can think of what that looks like, that Wes Craig style. That's sort of cartoony, and it's got a kind of like childish bend to it, but it's really dynamic and interesting, and I really love the colors in this issue or in this series. Wes Craig is doing career best work. It's no surprise to me that he continues to reject offers from the big two to focus on Kaya, because this is arguably the best work of his career. So check it out. It's an action adventure series that I think is suitable for all ages. So if you've got a kid in your life that a young adult that would suit this, that's perfect. But if you're an adult and can tolerate that the focus on the book is younger characters, but the themes are deep and pertain to what we're all dealing with in our lives, Kai is a great book for you. Highly recommended.
How far along is it? What issue are we at? 30s?
I think we're only in the early 20s. I think 22 or 23.
So not a huge investment if you want to get in from the ground floor.
Not a huge investment. The Image first trades are always $10. I think that's still a thing. So you should be able to pick that up. And then from there, to be honest with you, every arc is a decent enough jumping on point.
When I read it, it almost felt like Adventure Time by way of Jack Kirby.
Whoa, sure.
And I liked it a lot for that. Yeah, we read it maybe once or twice for the show, but you swear by it constantly.
Yeah, I think it's the most underrated comic coming out right now. And I do wish more people would buy it. So hopefully my little spiel will get you guys to pick it up. It's well worth your time. And that's what the Spotlight segment is all about. Letting you guys know about books that maybe you haven't picked up, maybe you should be thinking about, because we want to share our love of comics with you. So that's my choice this week. We'll hear from Tyler next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you tune into Pals Pulls to hear our thoughts about the books we just teased earlier and whether or not we're right about our choices for the pick of the week. Until Thursday, take care, guys.